I wanted to see what effect, if any, changing out the stock plastic adjustable sights on this Glock 44 for aftermarket metal sights would have on my performance. The main metric I'm using to measure that performance is going to be group size at 25 yards at a particular pace of shooting. Before we start looking at the targets and analyzing the data, the particular set of sights I'm using are the Tag Precision sights, and of course the OEM adjustable plastic sights look like the OEM adjustable plastic sights. Essentially, the OEM plastic sights have a very ugly, busy rear sight with a white dot on the front sight. And even though I blacked out the sights, the three-dimensionality of the rear sight was just always very distracting. And also the rear sight notch was not perfectly straight. I think the right side or the right edge of that rear notch was slightly tilted. So it never really gave me a good, repeatable, consistent sight picture. The Tag Precision sights are black on black with a serrated front and a serrated rear. Everything's nice and square. The front sight is a little bit over 1/8 of an inch wide, which is nice. I prefer that. A nice wide front sight gives me something to focus on, and it has a good amount of light in the rear sight notch to give me a good, consistent, and quickly repeatable sight picture. Now, the only thing that varies on this pistol from stock is going to be the Glock Performance trigger. I don't really like this trigger, and the more I shoot it, the less I like it, but that's for another video. For the purposes of this test, everything was shot with the Glock Performance trigger. Everything was shot at a distance of 25 yards with 2 hands on the gun. I shot a bullseye course of fire, and then I shot 2 strings of a GSSF course of fire, and everything was shot using CCI standard velocity. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at the targets. Now, I did score these targets, but I wasn't really shooting for score. The main thing I was concerned with was going to be group size. Once you can shoot a group, that's the true measure of marksmanship. That's the true measure of your ability to shoot a gun, actually shoot well. And then where that ends up on paper is really just a matter of doing some math or clicking screws left and right to get that group centered in the paper. I will have the scores on there. I have my main score posted on the target, and then I have like the theoretical best score on that target if I took that group and centered it on the target. But again, I'm less interested in the score in this particular instance than I am the group size. So the first 30 shots that I shot on a B8 target with the bullseye facing me, so I had a nice defined reference point at 25 yards. And the first 10 shots I shot was a slow fire string from a bullseye national match course. That's 10 shots in 10 minutes. Again, I shot 2 hands offhand. The group size ended up being 2 7/8 inches, and if I subtract the worst shot from this target, I end up with a group size of 2 5/8 inches. The next string of fire in a bullseye national match course is the time fire string, and that is 5 shots in 20 seconds, and you do that twice. With the OEM sights, the group size was 3 1/2 inches, and if I subtract the worst shot, my group goes down to 3 1/8 inches. The final string of fire in a bullseye national match course is the rapid fire string, and that's 5 shots fired in 10 seconds, and you're gonna do that twice. For the rapid fire string with the OEM sights, my group size was 4 1/4 inches. If I subtract the worst shot, my group size goes down to 3 1/2 inches. So for the next 20 shots, I simulated a GSSF indoor league match. The indoor league course of fire shoots on blank paper targets. They have scoring rings, but at 25 yards, you can't really see the scoring rings if you're focusing on your sights like you should be. So I shot on the back side of the B8 instead of the front side to kind of simulate that. And the GSSF Indoor League course of fire I chose was the one where you shoot 10 shots in 15 seconds and you start from the low ready. So the first 10 shots I shot with the OEM sights was 3 5/8 inches. And if I subtract the worst shot, it goes down to 3 1/4 inches. I then repeated that same string of fire, and I ended up shooting a group size that was 3 3/4 inches, and if I subtract the worst shot, it goes down to 2 5/8 inches. Again, that's 10 shots in 15 seconds from the low ready. By far the best target with the OEM sights was the slow fire target. All of the problems that I have with the OEM plastic sights don't really matter in slow fire because you have the time to sit there and really get everything perfect and break that perfect shot. The Glock 44 is not a particularly accurate 22 due to the fact that the barrel isn't fixed. It's allowed to float in there, and I would still be happy with this group even in bullseye. So after putting on the Tag Precision sights, I shot like 10 or 9 shots to go ahead and zero the gun roughly, and then I went and shot the next 5 targets, same 50 shots as I did before. Now the first target, again, slow fire, 10 shots in 10 minutes. Group size ended up being 2 7/8 inches, and if I subtract the worst shot, it ends up at 2 5/8 inches. For timed fire, 5 shots in 20 seconds twice, I ended up with 3 5/8 inches for my total group size, and subtracting my worst shot, I ended up with 2 3/4 inches. For the rapid fire series, that's 5 shots in 10 seconds twice, I ended up with a 2 7/8 inch group in a 2 1/4 inch group if I subtract my worst shot. The next 20 shots, again, were shot on blank targets, and this first one I actually shot a pretty poor group. It was 4 3/8 inches, and if I subtract my worst shot, it goes down to 3 3/8 inches. So I had one shot that was 1 inch outside of the group that really kind of spoiled the whole thing. But the last group that I shot was by far the best target of the day. Again, 10 shots in 15 seconds from the low ready on the blank side of a B8, so no aiming reference point. I shot a 2 5/8 inch group, and if I subtract the worst shot, the group size goes down to 2 1/8 inches. And if you look at this target, I just have a really nice cluster out there at 25 yards. And frankly, I think this is probably the most important group of the day, because this is how the gun is going to be used. My Glock 44 is mainly used, actually pretty much only used, for Glock Sports Shooting Foundation matches. So if it helps me in my ability to shoot 10 shots in 15 seconds from the low ready to clean the indoor league course of fire, then that's what I'm going to use. Now, let's go ahead and look at the aggregate group sizes. The best group of the day was that 2 5/8 inch group with the tag precision sights, and that was also shot at the fastest pace. I think that goes to illustrate that sometimes you have to move faster to shoot better. And that's probably why, like, when I shoot my 22 and bullseye, my best 25-yard groups are actually in rapid fire, not time fire. Rapid fire only gives me 10 seconds, so I have less time to sit there and think about things and try and dress up every shot. In time fire, you have 20 seconds to shoot 5 shots. You have all this time in the world. You think you can make every shot perfect, but you can't. So sometimes you got to pick up the pace, and you end up shooting better in the long run. Overall, the group sizes were pretty interesting. So the OEM Sights had an average group size of 3.6 inches. The tag precision sights had a average group size of 3.275 inches. So that's a 9.1% reduction in the overall group size. If I take all the group sizes, subtracting the worst shot in every group, the difference actually becomes even more significant. The OEM Sights gave me an average group size, subtracting the worst shot from every group, of 3.025 inches, and the tag precision sights came in at 2.625 inches. So that's a 13% overall reduction in the group size when we subtract the worst shot from every single group. So that's a pretty significant change. Of course, there's all sorts of other qualitative benefits to having metallic sights versus plastic sights. Number one for me would be the ability to blacken the sights with a lighter. Of course, this Glock 44, the slide is plastic, so I've got to be kind of careful with the lighter that I don't melt the plastic on the slide, but I can apply a layer of soot to these metal sights without melting them like you can with plastic sights. The other thing, of course, I talked about the sight picture that the OEM Sights gave. It's just very busy. Even if you black them out, put black paint on there, it's still going to be very busy with stuff jutting out at you. What are you doing? And also the metal sights, in my opinion, are just easier to adjust. Even though those factory plastic sights on the Glock 44 are adjustable, the adjustment range is so narrow that it might as well just be a fixed sight. Like, I would rather have had the fixed plastic sights over the adjustable plastic sights. Of course, with these metal sights, I have a whole tutorial of how you can adjust them to hit exactly where you want them to. On this particular one, I had to take a few thousandths off the rear sight to get the shots to hit center at 25 yards. 25 yards being pretty much the maximum distance I'm ever going to shoot this pistol at in a GSSF match. So if it hits center at 25 yards, the worst it'll do is it'll hit maybe half an inch low at point blank. So thanks to Tag Precision for giving these sights to me. It's nice to be able to see like an actual quantifiable performance boost by putting on a nicer set of sights rather than just kind of relying on your feelings. I'm like, well, it feels like I shoot better. It feels like I'm doing a little bit better. It feels like I can get my sight picture faster. I'm gonna do probably a similar video on the Glock performance trigger. There's a lot of people that talk about the Glock performance trigger like it's the best thing ever and oh my God, it's so much better than the stock Glock trigger. And I really don't think that's the case. I think this trigger is a significant downgrade from the stock trigger, both from a design standpoint, engineering standpoint, as well as the actual feel of the trigger. Right now, I hypothesize I'm probably not gonna see a difference in my performance with it, but qualitatively, I just prefer the feel of the stock trigger over the Glock performance trigger. So if I'm spending $100 on a trigger and I'm getting no performance increase, in my opinion, that's not money well spent, versus, like we showed in this video, getting a nice set of black on black target sights significantly, in my opinion, increase the performance, right? At Camp Perry during the national pistol matches, they have a Glock side match, and usually that match is decided on X's. So a 13% reduction in the group size is actually pretty significant. That could be the difference between shooting 500 with 45 X's and 500 with 46 X's, and that's probably going to determine who wins that match and who wins the Glock, and second place doesn't really get anything for that match. So there you go. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Thank you especially to my channel members and my Patreon supporters for supporting the channel directly. Consider becoming a channel member or a Patreon supporter using the relevant links on screen or down below. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.
Say hi, kitty.